So first, Fantech outdid Razer by releasing an Orochi V2 updated version with the Aria, and now they're outdoing, or at least outpacing, Zowie with the Helios 2 Pro, which is essentially just a wireless S2. This thing really feels very, very similar to it in hand. Internals in here are great, 3395 sensor, which is being powered by a Nordic MCU, which is a big plus. In terms of build quality, this thing's very good. Only the tiniest bit of audible flex here, and in terms of actual flex, I only get some on the bottom plate here, and that's if I'm like applying an unreasonable amount of pressure to it. The clicks are pretty enjoyable on this mouse. Mouse 1 and 2 are using TTC Gold opticals, which I feel like are the closest thing to a mechanical switch in terms of the feeling, while still being optical in how it performs. They sound and feel pretty darn light and crisp, again similar to a proper mechanical switch, and this is what it sounds like. Scroll wheel is a little bit lightly tensioned. I prefer mine with a little bit more defined steps, but it's nothing egregious. The scroll click is very light and clicky. I like it quite a bit. And the side buttons here don't feel anything fantastic compared to like the Mouse 1 and Mouse 2, but there's nothing bad about them either. Minimal to no pre or post travel on these side buttons. They feel pretty darn well implemented there. Now, Mouse 1 and Mouse 2 do have a touch of pre-travel and post-travel, but it doesn't feel bad in hand at all. I don't mind it really much at all. Now, I do feel like the coating on this mouse is a little bit of a weak point. It's not much of a coating really. It feels pretty bland, and there's not a whole lot of grip to it. Now, in terms of when I was using it for my testing, I never had any trouble getting a firm hold on this, but if you're somebody that's got real sweaty hands, or you're someone that prefers that type of grip coating like what you'd get on an endgame gear mouse or a Zowie mouse, you'll probably want to throw grip tape on this, and it's nice because grip tape is included with the Helios 2 Pro, so you are covered there unless you want a specific brand or something along those lines. Now, the skates on this mouse are also pretty darn good. We've got some white PTFE down here, and it's a little bit thin. It's hard to kind of show proper, but they're not on the thicker side. So if you're using this on a hard pad, I could see this wearing down fairly quickly, but they're very smooth, really smooth, consistent. I really like the glide on these skates, and I don't think in terms of performance, you're really gonna have to swap these out with aftermarket ones unless you're using a very soft, like an X-Soft Artisan type of mouse pad. In that case, you may get a little bit of drag on the bottom of the mouse because these skates are on the thinner side. It comes in two colorways. I've got the black colorway, but there is a gray colorway that has the same yellow accents. I think it's a pretty cool way of adding a little bit of color without it being like too much. And a nice plus is this has both 2.4 gigahertz wireless as well as Bluetooth. Now, in my opinion, the two biggest selling points for this mouse is going to be the weight. It's only 54 grams. That's very, very lightweight, as well as the polling rate. This comes with 4,000 hertz polling rate, which is pretty darn competitive. There are mice that could go up to 8,000 hertz, but at that point, I mean, you'd have to have a perfect gaming rig with the perfect monitor. For most people, 1,000 hertz is totally fine. 4,000 hertz, that's great. And in my testing of the wireless performance at 4,000 hertz, it looks pretty darn good. Now let's give the Helios 2 Pro a get-go grade. For gaming, I give the Fantech Helios 2 Pro a score of 9 out of 10. We've got a pretty darn lightweight mouse with 4,000 hertz polling, the most up-to-date sensor available at the moment, good skates, a pretty well-liked shape. Zowie made this shape, so it's gotta be good, right? It's running a Nordic MCU, good optical switches that feel nice and crispy. There's really not a whole lot to complain about here. It just doesn't reach 8,000 hertz like some mice, but I mean, even then, that's really kind of unnecessary anyhow. For everyday use, I give this a 5.5 out of 10. And this is a fairly comfortable mouse. I think I mentioned in my review of the Zowie mice that I found the S2 to be fairly comfy for like palm grip. So like out of all the symmetrical mouse that I've ever tried, I really thought the S2 kind of fits a more cozy, comfy feel in hand more than a lot of symmetrical mice do. And I still stand by that. I feel like this shape just feels pretty comfy. It's nothing egregious, and if you're just using this for day-to-day tasks, yeah, it feels good in hand. It's got dual wireless with the 2.4 gigahertz as well as the Bluetooth, so you've got a lot of flexibility there in terms of what you can connect it to. But there isn't any dongle storage, so it's not as portable. And you can reassign the extra buttons on the side and the scroll wheel with the program that you can download from Fantech's website. But there's not like any other extra buttons. There's no DPI button or anything like that. So in terms of assigning extra functions like keyboard, shortcuts, or anything like that, it's a little bit more limited. So not like my ideal choice for a task-oriented mouse. For cost, the Helios 2 Pro gets an 8.5 out of 10. Now, this isn't necessarily a budget pick. You can get it without the 4K dongle at $75, and with the dongle, it's only $10 more. And compared to a lot of the competition, this has a lot going for it, including the low weight, good build quality, Bluetooth, and 2.4 gigahertz wireless. I mean, this is packing a whole lot into a really nice package for the asking price. For my personal opinion on this mouse, I give it a 6 out of 10. For me personally, I'm just not a huge fan of the S2 shape, but if you're somebody that does like the S2 shape, this is pretty hard to pass up. From Zowie's previous release of the EC Wireless, I would have thought, yeah, you should probably just get the Helios 2. But they did just release a mouse that's low weight, wireless, and actually has up-to-date internals. So there is something to be said about possibly waiting for Zowie's release of the S2 wireless, but who knows how long that's going to take, and I guarantee it's going to be more expensive than this. Zowie definitely wins in terms of the coating. It's got that premium grippy feel to it, but it's also significantly more expensive, and it's really up to you if it's worth that much more compared to the Helios 2 Pro. So overall, that brings the score to 7.3 out of 10. I mean, the Helios 2 Pro is just a pretty darn safe recommendation. Not the most budget friendly, but you get a lot for the asking price with good build quality. There's just not a lot to complain about with this mouse, especially if you're someone that really likes the S2 shape and doesn't want to wait for the proper S2 release from Zowie. That does it for this one. Thank you all so much for being here, watching the video. Really appreciate it. Y'all take care, God bless, and I'll see you in the next one, okay? See ya.